to the post-show discussion and Q&A. I hope you all enjoyed what you've seen so far. It's been pretty exciting for us here as well, as you guys have been inspired already just watching things. And you're already cooking a new ascendancy class.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got to do design whenever you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's been a few fun moments here already. But I'm your host, Ziggy D, and I'm joined by Jonathan and Mark to talk about everything you've seen. Honestly, it's so much.
I mean, we were really keen to make sure that when we went into early access that people didn't feel like it was just, limping along and kind of, just like a minimum amount of content. We really wanted to kind of blow people away. So hopefully people feel like, there is enough content. Because, it was certainly a mission to get all that stuff in.
Yeah, I did come here expecting that there would be, maybe a basic mapping placeholder end game and your 3 acts and, the half the classes. But you've made a decision here clearly that's got the core PoE player community in mind.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we have to make sure, look, Path of Exile's endgame is kind of known for the fact you get to choose between different types of content and that, some people enjoy one thing, some people enjoy another. And I feel like that choice is a huge part of what makes it good. So if we didn't have that when we entered endgame, then I don't think that would be, that wouldn't be a Path of Exile endgame. So that's kind of what we have to make sure of. So we kind of said, okay, well, what is the minimum number of different in-game things you need to be able to have in order to be able to actually have a viable in-game that we feel like you get different choices. And that's how we ended up with what we have here.
I definitely feel like a lot of games nowadays release, and their campaign's intact and real good. You get to the end game and it just falls real flat.
Yeah.
And it was certainly a very important moment for us when we were like, hold on, that's the wrong thing to do. Let's not make the same mistake as everyone else. Let's pivot. And we actually did that, and it made a world of difference and made the game all of a sudden, 100 times bigger with an infinite amount more content, right?
It was definitely hard though, because it's we're progressing. It's we would have made it. We would have gotten all these acts in if we hadn't have changed direction. It's to actually say, you know what, we're going to specifically not finish this content that we'll be working on, that we it's pins down everyone. We're stopping work on this. We're going to move over to endgame because it's actually more important. That was certainly a hard one.
That would have been some whiplash there, I imagine.
For sure. Well, I mean, it's suddenly the whole, environment art team, it's they're all just whatever you're working on, just scrap. You don't want to scrap, but, just stop it. we're doing something else now. So
saving clothes, yeah.
Especially for a lot of the developers, because you got to also think, a lot of our developers have just been working on this campaign for, what is it now, 6 years?
I think it's even longer, actually.
Yeah, it's just this epic journey, whereas none of them, a lot of these people haven't been working on Path of Exile 1 this whole time, so some of us are we're just churning out endgame with every league and doing all of that, but for a lot of these people, a lot of these developers, it was quite jarring to swap over, but everyone embraced it. We talked about it, everyone was happy about it and stoked about it, and it just ended up coming out real awesome. So
I think it's landed well, and it definitely kind of blew me away when so even before I saw anything, we were in the car on the drive here, and you were just info dumping all of the end game. You're like, oh, we got this feature, we got this feature. I'm getting dopamine just from hearing about it. I haven't even seen anything yet. But do you guys feel like you're competing against yourselves a little bit here? Because Path of Exile's kind of set the bar. The original game has set the bar for what is available to endgame in a game like this, and it makes it's not acceptable really to launch with just nothing in terms of endgame now.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, if you're not competing with yourself, then I don't think you're going to make good progress, right? So that's what you really have to do.
Yeah, but cracking that out for beta even.
Yep, absolutely.
Pretty
well,
exciting.
as I said, I just think it would not have landed nearly as well without that. And I think it's important that our existing Path of Exile 1 community feels like they're also served. Sure, we're doing all this stuff for new players, and that's really important, and that'll expand the audience. But, if we launched and all the PoE 1 players are unhappy, that wouldn't be good. So, we have to make sure that they also feel like, they've got a game for both them and for all the new players we hope to bring to the genre.
And you definitely want all those different axes as well. Just having 2, right? You'll get a lot of content can be immediately divisive, right? Obviously, that's the nature of it. That's how it goes, right? And so you have all of these different avenues because there are different players who like different types of content.
Yeah.
So if you're just here's your one end game system, well, immediately then there is a portion of players who are just I don't want this, right? And so having all of these options is ultra key, and that is what Path of Exile 1 has taught us. And again, it's I'd say lessons learned, for the genre, and it is expanding in other games and stuff. But certainly, as you said, competing with ourselves, yes, PoE 1 has 40 axes, and we've got 7 really good ones here, and obviously more to come. But 7 is a lot, mind you.
Especially when it's all like, people have to learn a lot of things again. It's going to be very interesting to see how long it takes people to do the kind of difficulty 4 pinnacle content. It's like we have to. It's honestly like we actually don't even really know, because like you never know what people are going to find in terms of builds and so on. Like I'm hoping that it will take people a while to be able to work it out, but you never know. Maybe end of day 1, people just be like, oh yeah, easy, no problem, mate. Could be what it's like.
We have a few people that are doing that sort of thing. I saw like a solo self found level 100 in 24 hours or something.
Jeez. Okay, this is where we've got it now, is it?
So but I imagine there'll be a little bit of a soft reset there for people.
For sure.
A relearning period.
There's stuff to learn.
And I mean, PoE 2 has changed a lot over the years, so more than 5 years of development now. And what was that initial pitch when PoE 2 was first put forwards, like as to what it's going to be? Because it was much smaller in scope originally.
Yeah, so when we started, it wasn't even a sequel. It was we're just updating the character rigs, and over time, it kind of feature creeped into a proper sequel. But the thing that we were saying is, whenever we were talking about it, and I guess this is the main thing, is that we're like, okay, when we make an area here, it needs to be that there's like a theme for it. It feels unique from everything else. We're not going to just like have recycled stuff like within the campaign that just feels like, oh, we just took this area and modified it slightly. Each one's got to have its own stuff. It's got to have monsters that were like carefully thought about, that like, fit in with the world. And it's got to have bosses that are actually like good tier quality, and every area is going to have one. So those decisions have kind of been things that have meant that they really raised the quality bar to a level that took us way longer than we even really expected. Like those things there, just like it's huge, right? Like honestly, I feel like we underestimated significantly what it would take to deliver that level of quality.
I remember really early on, a battle I fought for, and I mean like way back, was like, if you think back to, say, Diablo 2, which obviously still holds a lot of, power in terms of design motivations and philosophy and stuff within the company, you get things like the super uniques, and PoE 1 did them, and it's just like, here's a boss with 1 or 2 skills. And I remember very, very, very early on in PoE 2, I'm like, I want every single boss to be memorable and a thing. I don't want a unique monster that's just like dies in 2 seconds and uses heavy strike and has a fancy name. And I remember, I even got some push.
Poor Caleb.
I remember getting some pushback at the time and thinking like, I love the bosses, my favorite part of everything. And so I was just like, man, I don't want this. This is just terrible. But of course, that decision, me pushing for that, me wanting that, turned into this megalithic.
What have you done?
Now we have 50, aiming to be 100. Honestly, probably later, several more 100 once all the end games, everything start to evolve and more expansions comes out. And I'm like, we maybe just made 100 times more work for ourselves, but 100% bloody worthwhile, because I'd say those bosses are one of the main attraction pieces of the game, and anyone who plays it is just like, holy crap, those boss fights are amazing. So like, obviously some are bad and some are good to different people and all that. That's how it all goes. That's part of all the fun. But it is true that me pushing for that thing literally created thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of work. Now, worthwhile work, but it is again that exact thing of like, the scope was kind of small on numerous axes, and as we just raised the quality bar to what we thought was good, it certainly went from, what was it initially, just reskinning some character classes and new rigs or whatever, into this like mega scale entire campaign, everything. But
full standalone separate game. Yeah.
Fun other anecdote, since we went out of that territory. It was originally codenamed Project Chimera.
What? I don't.
It was this pipe dream.
I've never been a fan of these codename things.
It was this like, there were times way back in the original Office, there was all this like, sometimes there'll be a feature you can't really do in PoE 1, and it was always like, we'll do it in Project Chimera. That was like amongst the developers, and people were like, what the heck is that? Now, ironically, there is a boss in Act 3 called, well, it's got a different name, but it's called the Chimera internally. It is a chimera. It's a multi-headed beast, and you've seen it in a few of the marketing, things here and here, different trailers, little snippets of it. And I think it's just ironic that was actually the first boss asset made before everything, the first monster, because back in when we used to just make random monsters and we'll find out how to use them. And that was made for that game. It was used in the original PoE 2 trailer, right? It is the only incomplete, technically, but only from a balance standpoint, or it was the last boss to finish in the entire Path of Exile 2 campaign right now.
It sounds like there was like some sort of emotional demon that you had to battle there, of like the legacy of the original idea, and you had to finish it.
We had a moment with the monster game designers where we're like, oh my god, it's happening, the Chimera is finally being finished. Holy, this is like, yeah, we were effectively like, we need to celebrate this boss finally being done. It was like at the origin, and now it's at this, point where we're about to deploy early access. Not to say the end, because the end is forever away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still the beginning of a journey in many ways.
Yep.
But on that note of celebrating, like, how do you guys feel having now kind of, for the first time, I feel really like laid bare kind of everything you have. You're putting it out there, and only being 2 weeks away from everyone playing it.
Well, it's always scary, coming into a release, and I think especially for there's like a bunch of people on the PoE2 team who have who are, like they have, this is their first game that they're going to be releasing, and that experience is something that it's tough. And honestly, I think that even we were feeling a little bit cocky actually about the fact, because we release content for PoE1 all the time, and I feel like we kind of felt like we knew what it took to get a game released, but honestly, like PoE2 was just a whole entirely different demon as far as getting things out right. Like, it's just way more difficult. Like, when you actually have to make everything, like the whole frickin' thing right from the ground up again, it's like, wow, there's way more stuff there. And like, there's even things like the passive tree, where it's like, I feel like we underestimated what it would take to get something like that to an actual releasable state. Like, that was a huge amount of work, just like absolutely colossal to get it to get that kind of stuff in shape. Like, it's just been crazy. Obviously it's nerve-wracking, coming up to a release day, but I think we do have something that players are going to really enjoy. And like, it's always comforting when we had a live event in LA recently. People, we got to the time limit and everyone's like, oh man, we don't want to stop. So like, I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. It's been a whole different experience for me here playing this time around as well, whereas before I was playing a very buggy kind of internal version of the game that was very experimental. Now playing almost what I'm going to be playing in.
Well, I heard you still managed to blow the count up the elevator with some kind of knockback bug.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah, we have to get that one.
I did send the Act 1 boss up an elevator with knockback. It was good.
Intended mechanic.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
He was in his like big wolf form and kind of trapped in there, so just barking at me through the wood. It's good. So a few little. I'm sure there's a few things to work out over this next 2 weeks. I hope the team can have a little bit of a rest for a day before they get back into it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot. So you've done that pivot to the end game focus and got so much for us now to play around with in the beta. And it seems like originally I was thinking, we might be playing for a few weeks here, and then maybe going back over to some Path of Exile 1 stuff. But it seems like you guys want us playing through Christmas.
That would certainly be good. Look, there's enough stuff there. I think it will take people a long time to get through.
Yep.
And obviously, it's also going to be the first time people are playing through a completely fresh campaign as well. I think that will take people a fair amount of time. There's and then of course the end game as well to explore. It should be pretty significant. We've always wanted it to be that Path of Exile 2 leagues, are going to be, like how PoE1 leagues are, where you play them for a reasonable amount of time, and then sure, you get done with them eventually, and then you've got the next content that comes out. So in order to be able to realize that, you have to have enough of a base to make that happen.
Yeah, people are definitely wondering like how invested they can get in the beta. So I definitely want to ask a few questions kind of around that idea. Firstly, is there going to be wipes and resets, and will there be something before launch as well?
So we are going to be having new leagues effectively throughout the beta whenever we launch something significant, because we want to make sure that all of the effectively that people are able to play through. But that stuff will be merged into an early access league, and effectively after we go into full release, that league will stick around. Now, I can't promise that everything about your character will function exactly like how it did in that thing.
I imagine it will be a glorious kind of snapshot of all of the here's all the broken stuff. Yeah.
But effectively, we can contain all that stuff in the sort of early access league, and then if you still want to play those characters, then you can go right ahead and do that. But the action is always going to be in whatever the most recent league is, and then of course after that point, there'll be a standard that everything goes into, which all our economic sins will forevermore be archived in the in standard. So that's. No doubt what will happen.
Well, it's nice that it's not going to be affecting what will be the standard league.
Yeah.
Also,
that's the idea.
People will be able to kind of get invested in their characters. Because,
absolutely.
There's even something kind of cool about the idea of making something that will be like that little historical piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little collectible.
Absolutely, and I'm sure there'll be some handful of legacy things that only exist in early access leagues. So I guess we'll have to see what comes with the unique balance.
You talked about like the playing for a week or how long are we expecting?
Yeah.
Well, we also got to remember, and a lot of the PoE1 players will be thinking very differently to people who are obviously going to experience this as a new game, but it is a new game, right? You don't have all these predefined, hyper-refined builds to play to immediately, go through things. You don't have people coming in with like fully detailed 7 million line build guides of exactly what to do with what items. The discovery is going to be there. The discovery takes time, and the discovery is like honestly ultra fun for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, those things will emerge after time. Of course they do. Completely fine. But you just got to remember, like, there's a lot of game to play here to discover, to learn about the world, the new narratives, the new world building, the new unique items, the ascendancy classes, the massive passive tree, which is bigger than PoE1's, the, end game systems, the bosses, it's not going to be this, I personally, when a PoE1 league comes out, for example, I play for like a month, sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit less. It ultimately also depends largely what's going on here and how much I need to invest here. So, and there are other people who play for more like 3 and whatnot, but there's certainly going to be a much longer time period you can play this for while still discovering new stuff and not feel like you're finished, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, of course, you see that's subjective. Everyone can pick their own point when they finish, but if you want to see everything and do everything, you're going to be investing a lot more time, especially these first-time rounds, and then obviously with every league, there's more to discover, but you get faster at doing all these parts over and over and over again. You'll get more efficient over time. That's how the game works. So, yeah, I'd expect a lot of time to be sunk into this to fully explore it to start with, like a lot, not a week, not 2 weeks. You're going to be going far, far longer than that if you want to see everything. But, it's up to you. Play at your own pace. See how you want to go. Learn at your own pace. That's the beauty of a new game as well, which we haven't been able to experience with Path of Exile 1, or other games and for so long, is actually discovering the entire world. And yeah, there's some familiar mechanics at the end game and stuff like that, which is awesome for people. But I certainly want to I'm very excited to see people discovering the new things and getting so excited about it.
I can tell you're amped for watching people go through that discovery process. I'm maybe even diving in yourself
100%.
I love sitting there in Path of Building, as many of us do, but I am very excited for that. That new discovery process for a while.
I think you were saying how much you were part spreadsheet. I think I was saying I'm like maybe 60% spreadsheet, 40% discovery, and that's my play archetype. So
coming up with our player profiles, Timmy spikes and things like that for both of Exiled characters.
The discovery part of me is ultra excited, and I'll mind you, that's coming from someone who kind of knows all the content. I'm still, because there's something different about making it versus actually playing it live with the players, seeing them discover it, uniques being linked in chat and on Reddit and all of that is just so cool. So we're going to get a massive dose of that, and it is like genuinely exciting to just see how people are going to think, what's worth 1 chaos or what's worth 10 chaos, what's worth if chaos is even the metric.
Is chaos even the currency that people settle on?
We were arguing about this earlier.
I'm pretty sure that 1 C spam in chat might turn into 1 E, because 1 exalt, given that exalt is now...
I think it'll be chaos.
People probably...
Ad remove will still be...
People don't appreciate, by the way, so when we say we've increased you're going to be getting multiple exalts in Act 1. In PoE2, we actually have increased that a lot. It isn't just like an idle,
I can see exalts becoming the new kind of like chaos.
I think
chaos
will
being
be
the new divines.
I actually agree. But we'll see.
That's my point.
But it's a new economy, right? Who even knows?
Yeah.
The market will have to.
But I like that we're already arguing about this. It's good fun.